So I am here at FreedomFest doing some great interviews, talking to people, having great conversations. Today I'm very lucky. I have with me Daniel Harmon of Tuttle Twins TV. Please, Daniel, tell me something about what you're doing.
Awesome. I am creating a TV show that teaches kids about principles of freedom and economics.
Nice.
So it's based on the best-selling book series by Connor Boyack and Elijah Stanfield that have sold over 4 million copies now.
Wow.
Yeah,
great.
it's really resonating with parents, and it teaches about concepts of, personal liberty, of entrepreneurship, of the golden rule, some really basic core things. And we've taken that book series that he has and those principles, and we've turned it into a series, a cartoon series for kids that is kind of like a mixture of the Magic School Bus and a show like Phineas and Ferb or The Simpsons, but maybe a little bit more family friendly.
I like that, yes. Well, Phineas and Ferb was pretty good.
Yeah,
that was pretty good. That was good.
The Simpsons.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. We'll take Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah,
it's all
that's
good.
right.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm here talking because I want people to kind of understand that there's a difference between someone's values and their ethics.
Okay, yeah.
Most people in their values, as I show you here, are somewhere go towards conservative or progressive often.
Yep.
Some people lean left or lean right, common.
Yep.
But your ethics is, when is it okay to use coercion?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And
yes.
when is it okay to use persuasion?
Yeah.
Are there exceptions?
Yeah.
Are there no exceptions? Right? How does
Critical
that work?
thinking skills, right?
Absolutely, 100%. So I think that most people would agree that no matter where you fall on that spectrum, that you want to be happy,
Yes.
right? That's what people want.
That's what everybody wants.
Bingo. We
Is
all
to be
want to
happy.
be happy.
Yep.
And that if you are somehow harmed or hurt or physically harmed or hurt,
Yeah.
that's going to make you less happy,
Yes.
right? And that's every time, right?
Yep.
And if someone either destroys or hurts or steals your stuff, either through theft or through fraud,
Right.
it's going to make you less happy.
That's right.
Right, every time.
Yep.
Now, the funny part is, you and I think that. We're here. Do you think other people think differently? Or do you think that everyone goes, yeah, don't take my stuff, don't hurt me? Or is there something in between?
I think that the grand majority of people think that way.
They do.
At least when it comes to applying that to themselves.
Got it. Okay.
Now, they might remove that principle when they are thinking of ways that they want to control or coerce others.
Got it. Okay.
And they haven't yet maybe thought critically of like, well, wait, what if I was in their shoes?
Right.
So sometimes there's a breakdown in empathy of people being able to understand, well, wait, would I want to be told what to do if I was them?
Sure.
Or would I want to be forced in this situation? Would I want to be hurt? Would I want to have this taken away from me?
Right.
And a little bit of what we're trying to do with the show is help kids think through that process critically of those situations of like, when is it okay to use force? When is it okay when is it definitely not okay to use force, right?
Right.
And so, yes, I would say universally, people want to be happy.
Yep.
And in an event where they're being forced or coerced or there's violence being brought upon them in any kind of way, they're going to be less happy. And I think in their hearts, in their conscience, they would agree with that. But they have not yet necessarily been taught how to think in terms beyond the direct treatment to themselves as opposed to treatment of others.
So what they want, but you're saying they may not always give, but what they want is basic human respect.
Yes, absolutely.
So everybody wants basic human respect. So that's kind of what I would hear you're saying is that's a principle.
Yes.
That if we spend more time worrying about basic human respect, then we will have people who will be more happy, there'll be more harmony and more prosperity.
Absolutely.
I love that.
I believe that 100%.
I love that. So with that in mind, well, is there a time when you might say, you know what? I'm worried about gun violence, as an example.
Yeah.
Or I'm worried about a virus. That it's okay for me as government to step in and say, you know what? Let me force some people to do some things. Is there a time when that's okay, where government can step in and go, you know what? It's gun violence, or it's the vaccine, so we gotta force it. It's the right answer because it helps others, or doesn't, or helps others.
Right. I think there can be. I don't know how it applies all the time directly to things like, a virus or guns. But
Right.
let's say, for example, if someone was to walk in right now and try to punch you,
Right.
we would be totally okay if you defended yourself.
Sure.
And like even use physical violence against this person
Sure.
to defend yourself, right?
Sure.
And
Not
then
in
we
New York
would
State, but here, yes.
Yes. Okay. That's why I don't live there.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yes.
But
Yes.
we'd be okay with that.
Yep.
I think people would also be okay if you didn't defend yourself, but I stepped in for you
Sure.
and actually did that.
Sure.
Like that would be labeled heroic.
Right.
But in that case, someone else is the aggressor.
Right.
Right? And then there's someone that's in defense. And that's where I think it's kind of allowed, is in a sort of a defensive position. And I think you get yourself into really kind of too gray of area when you're starting to say, for something that you can't really prove where you got it, like a virus.
Right.
You can never, like, I shouldn't say never, but in most circumstances, you can't really know who you got it from, right? You can know who you came into contact with and that kind of thing through all these tracing things that they do, which is a whole other thing.
Right.
But I'd say as a general rule, it seems like it is an overreach when you're going into that level of prevention from...
What you said was, if some guy comes in,
Yes.
that's great. That's
Yes.
some guy and me.
Yes.
It's us.
Yes.
But when we talk about government, it's not me doing it.
Right.
Right? And in fact, we're voting on it usually.
Right.
We're voting to get rid of all the guns, or we're voting to make a vaccine mandate, or we're
Yep.
voting to do the thing.
That's right.
So I'm not doing it.
Right.
Right? My government agent's doing it, whether it's
Right.
the ATF or the police or the doctors, or they're firing me from my job, right? Whatever. I'm not doing it. It's
Right.
someone else
On your behalf.
on my behalf.
That's the real problem, right? Is I say to myself, my neighbor has a lot of money.
Right.
I want my neighbor's money.
Yep.
I'm not going to walk into his house and take his money.
Right.
I know that's wrong. But it does not make it better for me to hire an intermediary. My neighbor on the other side, you
Right.
go and take it from him for me.
Right.
That's also not okay. And essentially that's what we do with government, right? Is if we're not saying to ourselves, if I would not be allowed to take this action against you, Larry, then why in the world can I bring in a third party
Right.
to do that for me? How does that all of a sudden make it okay? And I think that's the critical thinking that people are missing in a lot of
I feel
circumstances as far as that concept of respect.
Don't most Americans think it's not really violent or bad because we voted, right? Doesn't
Right.
that make it okay?
Right.
We're a democracy, right?
Yeah.
So if we vote to take that guy's stuff, well, come on, we voted, so it's fine now.
Yeah.
And now what he's doing it now is by keeping the money, he's now a criminal. See,
Right.
it's illegal.
Right.
Because the law says, give me the money.
Right. And there's sometimes a distinction between what's legal
Yes.
and what's moral.
Sure.
Or what's ethical, what's right,
Sure.
you know? And obviously we all kind of have to make our own decisions about which of those laws, if we were all obeying all the laws all the time, we'd be driven crazy, right? Because there's just too many of them out there. But we all kind of have to make a decision about which of those laws am I going to stand up and say, I know it's legal, but this is what's actually right, and I'm going to do what's right instead of what's legal. Let's take Rosa Parks, for example.
Sure. 100%.
Right.
Great.
Great example,
Yes.
right? Rosa Parks says it's legal for them to move me from my seat on the bus.
Right.
But that's not right. And I'm going to stand up, or in her case, sit down
Right.
for it. We have an actual episode of Tuttle Twins that talks about that.
Ah, very nice.
It talks about civil disobedience, right?
Yep.
Where she wasn't using violence in order to make a stand for what she believed in. She was just civilly disobeying, where it wasn't going to take away anybody else's rights, even though it was what was legal at the time. Same thing for Harriet Tubman,
Right.
right?
100%.
What was legal was for her not to go and
Right.
get those people that were enslaved
Right.
and pull them out into a place of freedom.
Right.
But she went and did that because it was what was right. Susan B. Anthony, same thing. When
Absolutely.
she went and voted as a sort of civil disobedience and a protest to what was legal at the time, which was, no, a woman couldn't vote. But she said, no, what's right is that men and women need to be equals in this, and we need to be able to vote. And so those are all, I think, good examples and ones that we use in an episode of Tuttle Twins to highlight that distinction between what has been voted in and given a stamp of approval by the government as the legal thing versus what is the moral or the right thing.
So what you're saying here is you're making a good distinction between when government does it, it's basically coercion, if not absolute violence and force.
Right.
And when we do it as people, it's actually persuasion because we're convincing everyone else that we're actually right.
Right. And if we're doing it the right way, then it most of the time will not involve violence. And it shouldn't involve violence unless
100%.
It's in defense of an aggressor that's already coming after us in some way, right?
Got it. So let me ask a harder question. Is there an exception in your mind where government can be coercive, government can be violent? Right? That many people believe, as I mentioned earlier, that gun control is a totally viable thing, that you should be able to go in and take your guns and kick your door in. Maybe think the drug war is totally fine, kick your door in and take your drugs.
Right.
Many people believe that's fine, that's totally okay. You're protecting your citizenry or doing the right thing. Are these okay?
I think the basics of like John Locke or like Frederick Bastiat that would teach that life, liberty, and property are the things that a government can be in defense of. Because those are things that you could defend yourself for yourself, right? This is, I went and planted a garden, raised these tomatoes, I've got these tomatoes now you can't take them from me, Larry. I can defend myself physically against you if you want to take these away from me and my family. The same thing, you want to come and actually hurt me as a person, either by inflicting bodily damage or kill me or something, I can defend myself. So that's my life, that's my property, and my liberty. You want to actually stop me from saying something.
Got it.
You're not going to be able to do that. I can use, if you're physically trying to do something like that, then you wouldn't have that freedom to do that. So yeah.
So you're saying it's in defense, not so government should not really be that proactive.
Yes, I think it is I think violence should always be in the defensive position.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there an exception for people who can't defend themselves?
For someone to step in and defend for them?
For government to do it for them, and maybe even as an example, let's say, I'm worried about community of elderly people who have some form of Alzheimer's or something like that, right?
Yes.
Where they're unable, or I'm worried they're unable to take care of themselves in some way, shape, or form. And I think that family members may take advantage of them. I believe this to be true.
Yes.
And I want to pass a law, and so I want people to vote on it, that says, hey, once you're, whatever, insert age here, 70, that government takes over your stuff because you might get taken advantage of by your kids.
So
is that kind of proactive thing okay? Because I am defending people who, in theory, can't defend themselves.
So
would that be okay?
I think by passing a law as it relates to age would be a very dangerous way to do that.
I agree completely.
Because I've seen people that are in their 90s and are as sharp as a tack
100%.
And have all of their decision-making capacity with them, as well as can still get about. They've taken really good care of their bodies,
100%.
or they're blessed with great genetics or whatever it is. They're still very much a functioning adult.
Yep.
And no, I don't think in that case that would be good.
But isn't my argument then, yeah, some of those people are going to be fine, but there's so many who aren't.
Yeah. And
so don't I want to, why do these people want to be so selfish? Right? I want to help the people who can't help themselves, these selfish 90-year-olds.
No,
right?
I do not think that's the government's role. I don't think it is to be proactive in that way and go and say, well, because it's this majority, then we're going to not worry about these others and forget about them. Then we're going to go after them. No, there's other ways to decide that. There's other ways for a decision to be made about whether or not that person still has that capacity and needs to be
even
defended.
If someone's 91 years old, they still deserve human respect.
I think so.
I think at
any age, and I think even I think human respect even needs to be extended to criminals.
Yep.
I think it needs to be extended to people who break the law, who have made terrible decisions, to addicts, to all of them. Like, the human respect is not limited to just people that are operating within their full capacity. They're self-sustaining, healthy, decision-making adults, but actual people that are maybe even a drain on society, have done terrible things. But there's always a way to extend that human respect.
So then government should, before it makes any rule or takes any action, should be thinking, what about human respect, that principle?
Yes.
And can I make this happen or assist this in some way without coercion?
I think so. I believe that's the case. I love that. I think there are
even though I threw those curveballs at you, you still went there anyway.
Well,
I love it.
I think there's two ways to approach things, right? Mm-hmm. You can approach things from a place of fear, and you can approach things from a place of faith and love.
Right.
And those are kind of tied together. And I think often the government and the things we vote for in government end up being from a fear position.
Yes.
Oh, what if this happens? As opposed
Absolutely.
to, no, what if we actually have some faith in people? We want people to have faith in us.
Of course.
Yeah, everyone does.
Right.
Why don't we want to extend that same thing to other people? Of like, think the best of them, give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not saying that we can't defend ourselves and those types of things, but again, defensive as opposed to aggression.
Right. I love it. We're on board. Human respect is the key. It makes us happier, more harmony, more prosperity, and government should be doing it, and so should individuals.
Absolutely.
Thank you, my friend. Such a good conversation.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it.
Right.
Okay.